Hello, everyone, and welcome to Exploring the Motherland African News with Garth. I'm your host, Garth. Here at Exploring the Motherland, we will continue to promote the message of Quest to Unite Africa. You ask, what is the message of Quest to Unite Africa? Well, Quest to Unite Africa is a nonprofit charity organization that promotes economic development and critical infrastructure for the benefit of the diaspora and the African continent. We do this through four initiatives: business, medical, technological innovation, and cultural engagement. But here at Exploring the Motherland, we will not only talk about the message of Quest to Unite Africa, we will go deeper and we will relate the news going on in Africa and how it is relevant to our mission here at Quest to Unite Africa, how everything coincides. So without further ado, let's begin. I have slides that I've created. Let's show them and let me know if you could see my screen. Once I share it, give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. We're having a little bit of technical difficulties. Just give me 1 second. Thank you. All right, I hope everyone could see my screen. I see it here. All right, I made a slideshow for today and we are gonna look at some clips and I will post the coinciding links with those clips and we are going to have a discussion. So this should be good and it's gonna be fun. Let me start. Give me 1 second. African Union addresses integration issues at Ghana conference. So basically, the African Union is concerned with economic integration for their upcoming dealings with the G20, for their initiatives to fund the African Union going forward. And they are concerned with the things going on in Africa, especially with ECOWAS and their new alliance. And you don't have to hear it from me. Let's just start the clip.
The African Union convened in Ghana on Sunday to address issues related to African integration and to establish a unified stance before engaging with the G20 and UN. Mauritania's president and current African Union chair, Mohamed Sheikh Azwani, urged for the acceleration of the African integration process.
Mohamed Sheikh Al-Ghazwani, the president of the Islamic Republic.
It is urgent for us to speed up our efforts towards economic integration, and we have to be sure that this is done very well. in order to support the continent and to meet the aspirations of our people in the various countries of Africa.
Discussions during the meeting centered on financing mechanisms for African Union projects, particularly the funding of the organization itself, which heavily relies on the contributions from non African partners. With ongoing regional instability in West Africa, ECOWAS nations Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso risk losing their membership due to military coups that ousted democratically elected leaders in these countries.
All right. So basically, the African Union is concerned with their funding mechanism going further, and they all want to come on one accord to promote economic development. Here at Quest Unite Africa, that's one of our pillars, economic development. And the African Union, as you heard in the news clip, rely on funding from outside sources so the union can thrive. Herein lies the problem. Burkina Faso and Niger and Mali have decided to make their own partnership to create economic development and stability within their country. They obviously didn't believe that the African Union was, meeting their needs for their country, especially if you read up on the Sahel and how they are undergoing a lot of terrorism and they're unable to stabilize their borders. But it's funny, once they've disinvolved themselves from the African Union, they made strategic partnerships with countries such as Russia. And Russia has made it their business to help Burkina Faso with energy, which can help, I'd say it could help expand their critical infrastructure tenfold, even more. And then also, Burkina Faso has also started doing other initiatives such as medical ones. And here at Quest Unite Africa, we have, personally, I have been to Burkina Faso, and we are currently trying to create a relationship through our medical initiative. We are trying to figure out what they need because it seems like the African Union hasn't been able to step up to the plate, or they just felt that they needed to do something new because the African Union has been around a lot longer than this Sahel alliance, but you see that they're making progress. So they are concerned here about what are the implications of Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso creating their own alliance and how it affects the union going further. As you could see in Kenya as well, and we'll talk about that later, Kenya itself is, the people have tried to start their own initiatives, or well, not even initiatives, they're just protesting because they're just tired of bad policy and things, bad policy from their leaders that don't help them, help uplift them or better their condition. So the African Union is, I believe is very they're scared because they see how Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso are taking initiative and making progress without them. So they are pretty much, it's a battle of whose interest do they have? Do they really have the people's interest? Because I believe that the things that are going on in Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, other citizens from different countries have taken notice and they've seen the progress. So they would want that same progress instead of relying on the African Union to, do this, show and trick and pony show where they just, raise money, but you don't see that money being, facilitated in the best ways, and you don't see that money being stimulated or put to use for the people. But relating to Quest to Unite Africa, this is what we do. We try to help create strategic relationships that help the diaspora as well as the continent. And some of you know, we have took it upon ourselves to try to create a strategic relationship through our medical initiative and how we are able to meet the needs of Burkina Faso. So that's just one example. And I will get to the next clip. Kenya police fire tear gas to stop scuffles between pro and anti-government groups.
Anti-government protests have been a common sight across Kenya in recent weeks. But these demonstrators, riding motorbikes through the capital Nairobi on Tuesday, are rallying in support of the government.
We will make sure that businesses must go back to normal in this town. We condemn the protests.
The pro-government protesters clashed with anti-government rivals on Tuesday morning before being dispersed by police who fired tear gas. One anti-government protester said they were being unfairly targeted.
The police are only targeting us, peaceful demonstrators, while hired goons covered in masks on motorbikes with concealed number plates are moving in plain sight as the police just watch. Who are they? And what kind of country is this?
Protests erupted in June against proposed tax hikes. They have since grown into a wider movement against President William Ruto's government. More than 50 people have been killed after marches that were initially peaceful turned violent, with police opening fire. Anti-government protesters are calling for Ruto to resign and for systemic changes to tackle corruption and poor governance. On Friday, Ruto reinstated several cabinet members who had been dismissed a week earlier. That was, he said, to form a new government that would respond to the protesters' grievances.
All right. So this is an example of what's going on in Kenya, is an example of the leaders failing to create economic development policies that help the citizens of their country. You see here that they are protesting because they're mad and angry that that the country is obviously on an uprise right now because of William Ruto's policies as pertaining specifically with the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, basically the loan sharks of the world, that's as I call them, have, you know, gotten entangled within the Kenyan government, and, you know, have made promises, and has told the Kenyan government that they will give and lend on these certain conditions. And these certain conditions are very stringent, and some of them are just impractical. And just for the country to get funding, they have to do a lot of cutting of initiatives and a lot of spending that, you know, is already poorly mismanaged. And Ruto has tried to save face by, you know, getting rid of cabinet members and getting rid of this finance plan, this finance bill that is in direct correlation with the IMF funding Kenya. So he's found himself in a bit of a pickle, I guess, because now it doesn't matter. The people that, you know, you saw that some people were pro government, but I believe they just don't have any other choice than to be pro government, because they see the violence and the chaos that's going on, that they just want order, even though the order that they are, you know, relying upon isn't beneficial to them. And then you have the anti protesters for the anti government, and they understand that no matter what, they need to make sure that Ruto gets out, because whatever he is promoting or whatever he's doing hasn't helped them with their current situation of living in poverty and just having no jobs or hope. So this here is just an example of how we try to make strategic relationships that are beneficial for the people, to give them hope and to give them encouragement and to empower them to take control of their own livelihood and their own well-being. You see here in Kenya, William Ruto hasn't done that, and it's caused a lot of uprising. And I don't know if you all, well, if you don't, you know, there's also other countries like Uganda who are protesting corruption, especially a lot of young people. They see the time, this is the time for their voices to be heard, to make sure that their leaders understand what they need, what their needs are, especially when it comes to jobs, economics, and things of that nature, because this country here in Kenya has a lot of people 34 or younger. I'm 34. That's my age, that are, you know, just tired of seeing all their people in poverty, and just tired of the same old, you know, policies that have got them in this predicament. So I believe here, this is a great chance for us here at Quest Unite Africa to create relationships through culture engagement, because we would need to know what the Kenyan people want, whether that's through in business or in the medical arena or any technology they need to advance. We could start there, because there's going to be a lot of fallout, or a lot of people who don't know where to go to help. And here, I believe at Quest Unite Africa, this is a great opportunity to start paying attention to what's going on in Africa, and just think about what you can do to help, whether it be imparting your knowledge in whatever industry you are in, or imparting some type of initiative to help train younger adults in job training or just economic development or economic um, just economic structures of how a country is supposed to be ran and just different policies. But I am going to go on to the next article, and this article is personal and relevant to Quest Unite Africa the most, I believe. And without further ado, the next article. Kenyan farmers turn to sustainable methods to combat soil acidity.
In an effort to combat increasingly acidic soil, farmers in Kenya are turning away from industrial farming methods. Farmer Benson Wanjala has seen the effect of chemical fertilizers on his crop yield. I was advised to apply manure, but I wasn't keeping cows at the time. Since I was wondering why the yield had reduced, I decided to move to Nairobi and start farming vegetables. My vegetable yield also began to decrease, and I suspect it is due to the increased amount of chemicals in the soil. I have no choice but to use fertilizers, as I need to make money to support my children. The overuse of chemical fertilizers changes the soil's acidity levels, leading to plants being unable to absorb the existing nutrients in the soil. Unaware of the consequences, many farmers double their fertilizer application when they get low yields. But soil testing can help them understand how to better use fertilizers and protect their land.
The farmers that are using chemical fertilizers now are maybe 2 generations into using chemical fertilizers, and before they weren't using it. So they don't have the data that would then inform them on how to use them. And who brings the chemical fertilizers? It's the companies that sell them. So their agenda is to push as much chemical fertilizers for sale.
With Kenya's maize production down in recent years, experts are calling for sustainable farming practices and the use of biofertilizers to stop soil degradation.
These microorganisms are killed, then clearly it's like saying that a human being without an immune system, you cannot be able, it's like a lifeless body. So like that's what our soils are right now. They don't have structure. They don't have enough microorganisms in the soil to help in nutrient cycling. So we have soils, but our production continues to go down.
Greenpeace Africa is urging governments across the continent to enact laws that support sustainable farming methods in a bid to counter declining yields.
All right, so you see here that Kenyan farmers are struggling to yield their crops due to farming techniques that they may have, ignorantly learned or just didn't know what was going on with their yield. And, that you were hearing this gentleman, he was talking about how he needs to use fertilizer because he has no other way of combating other, what do you call it? Pests, pests getting into the crops, and the soil is degrading as they use fertilizers, and they are trying to find different methods or turn to different methods to combat the acidity in the soil. And it's really funny. We think that wealth is, a lot of us here in the West think that wealth is how much money you have in your bank account and how much, quote unquote, assets you have. But here, the real wealth is in your land, because that land is yours, and that land is always you sow into your own land and it reaps whatever you put into it, and it can't be taken away. That's real wealth. You have a farm that could sustain your family on top of you selling those crops to your own community. That's real wealth. Helping one another, sustaining one another, creating different markets through farming and selling crops. That's all real wealth. And these people are trying to figure out how they can preserve their land and to protect it, because it is their livelihood, as the man stated earlier. And here at Quest Unite Africa, I was just reading the story and I was just thinking, this is a real life example of how we can help, because personally here at Quest Unite Africa, our own sister Coco G, Ashley Hughes, and brother Fast Nickel have created a company known as Nature's Legacy Garden. Quest Unite Africa and Nature's Legacy Garden have created a partnership that is beneficial to our people, because Nature's Legacy Garden, and I'm going to put the website in the chat. If my computer stops deciding to be slow, okay. Nature's Legacy Garden is a company that they created to help us learn sustainable gardening methods and land, and how to preserve our land and how we can better treat our land so we are able with YouTube, it like froze. Can everyone hear me now? I'm gonna share this link for Nature's Legacy Garden. All right, and I'm just gonna share the website. All right, so Nature's Legacy Garden, land restoration and gardening. And as I said, this is a class on land restoration. It's a 10-week certification course. The first class started this week, but as Brother Fast Nickel let me know, you will be able to catch up as you go if you sign up. And the sign-ups are down here, $450 if you pay in full, and you get a 25% off discount, or you can set up a payment plan and pay $150 per month for 4 months. And then after this, you get a certification in land restoration and advanced gardening. And I believe that's very empowering that we are teaching people how to farm and garden, because again, therein lies the real wealth, being able to control your own crops and sell them at your own prices, and just being able to give your community fresh food. Well, family, I'm not going to bog you down. I hope this stream was edifying for all of you, and I will be back next Friday, same time at Quest Unite Africa. Please like and subscribe and share, and thank you and enjoy your weekend.